Hello, everybody, and welcome back to yet another special edition of the NPU Let's Get Real National Town Hall series. We have called everybody to order on a great day of celebration. I know that it seems like with everything going on, what is there to celebrate? And let me tell you, we are celebrating National AI Literacy Day. And that is worth celebrating. So excited about all of the national initiatives that are taking place on today. So, again, to all of our partners, affiliates who are doing tech fairs, um, community days, they're doing webinars, they're doing trainings with their parents. We commend you and we shout you out and we thank you for being engaged with us on a national level. Now, for those who are maybe new to this platform, this is your first time tuning in. I am Jason B. Allen, your host for this amazing event. I am the National Director of Partnerships for this amazing organization called the National Parents Union. And so we are so excited to have you celebrate with us on today. We go by NPU, and we are the United Independent Voice of Modern American Families. That means we represent everybody, and we are here to work for and with everyone. Again, this is a nationwide day of action focused on exploring the question, what is AI? Now, I have to give a major shout out to our Senior Director of Organizing and Partnerships, Tafshir Cosby. Both her and I are a part of the EdSafe AI advisory board for this year. So we are super thankful to be leading the national conversation and hosting some amazing partners of ours who are going to be coming before you in just a few moments. Now, everyone that is shouting out their areas, their communities in the comments, thank you for tuning in. New Jersey, Georgia, North Carolina, New York, California, Texas, everyone, thank you so much for being engaged in this conversation. We again are going to be going over AI literacy, all things AI, hearing from some phenomenal experts. And I must challenge you, join our technology coalition, our work on developing a connected generation at nationalparentsunion.org and get connected to some of the amazing things. For example, in New York City, we are in partnership with some amazing folks doing a technology workshop that is free for parents in New York City and connecting areas. So again, make sure you are connected to the National Parents Union and this phenomenal work that we are doing. We are just about at time to bring our panel on, and I would be remiss to tell you that we have a very active social media, TikTok, YouTube, Instagram, that is providing information in real time to our partners, affiliates, and individual members. Now, I have to say, I was challenging us in the last town hall, it was just on Monday, our family talk, that we wanted to be close to 2 million active parents and individual members. And I have to shout out our team because we are very close to that. So if you are watching this and are interested in how you can get your school, your community connected to the work that we're doing, go to nationalparentsunion.org and make sure that you get connected. And again, it's so awesome to see so many of our partners and affiliates across the nation who are checking in on today. So again, thank you guys for continuing to share this information out with your base. All right, we are ready for our panelists to come on. They are on screen and on camera in the background, smiling and like, hey, we are ready to talk all things AI. And so as they come on, please help me to welcome them as they are coming on. We are going to hear who they are, where they're located, and just a little bit about their work. And let me tell you, audience, I'm letting you know this now because we know how people are. We like to talk about ourselves, but we also like to talk about the great work that we're doing. So we have some phenomenal guests that are joining us right at this moment. Students, We have experts, we have parents, we have teachers, we have everybody that you can think of who are with us uh, on today. And so we are going to get right into the conversation again. Thank you. Many of you are partners in our technology coalition and the work that we're doing. We're going to go right in order of the program. Yaritza, we'll start with you first. Tell us who you are, where you're from, and a little bit about your work.
Hey, Jason. Hey, everyone. I'm Jadik Savi Jalba. I am the CEO and founder of McKinsey's Adventures. We're a global education consulting company working with schools, organizations, and districts across the United States, but also across 6 continents. We provide parent workshops and parent academies in areas of AI, coding, and digital fluency. And I'm in New York.
Okay, I was waiting for you to highlight New York. I said, now she's in New York, and Ashara is dropping so much information happening in the great state of New York and what NPU is leading. And again, connect with our partners, learn more about them. They have some phenomenal free things for parents, teachers, students, and the community. And we want to make sure we show them value. Akil, you're up next.
Yeah, what's going on, Jason? And it's a pleasure to meet the rest of you on the panel. I've never met you before. Look forward to the conversation. My name is Akil Parker. I'm the founder of All This Math. All This Math is an educational services company focusing on mathematics and improving the relationship between mathematics and the Black community at large. And by offering resources such as the YouTube channel that we maintain, where we provide culturally responsive math videos that are infused with Black history facts and lessons at the same time. So you get your math, you get your Black history at the same time. Also books that we have available, and we also offer parent workshops to try to help parents become more comfortable with mathematics generally, but also the so-called new math and the new methods that are used to teach math today, so that they'll be confident to help their children with the math homework when they come home. As people always say, it should start in the home, but I believe that we have to show people how to make it start in the home. So a lot of the work that I do, with the parent workshops is, showing the parents how to understand the math, be comfortable with the math in order to be able to help their children with the math and really supplement what's going on in the math classrooms in school.
Awesome. All right, Julian, we are going to hear from you, followed by Megan, Tiffany, and then Gemma, who will be joining us in a few moments.
Sure, absolutely. Good afternoon, everybody. Julian Fitzgerald, co-founder, executive director of the Community Foundation. Community is a social organization, workforce development organization focused on increasing access and on-ramps into the technology industry. So again, focused on workforce and education. What we do is we actually use interest-based curriculum to engage our target audience, which is, of course, our youth. So from K-12 to emerging professionals, the interest-based touch point itself for us is a lot of times gaming, esports, entertainment as a topic. And then from there, we're using gaming and esports as a medium to both, again, draw and then engage end users to learn from into different topics from marketing, game development, design, production, organizational management, and business. And so again, using a kind of a Trojan horse strategy, we're very excited. We operate across 3 pillars: education and exposure, infrastructure, and then access to industry. So we've built 16 innovation labs since 2020, donated over $2.3 million directly back to HBCUs and partner institutions and students to, again, further their ability to engage in the tech industry. And then also are focused on a national expansion with our programs as well. So very excited to be a part of the call. Thank you.
Awesome. Megan, we see you. I know Gemma is coming back on as well. I will pass it to you first, then we'll hear from Tiffany, and then we'll hear from Gemma.
Great. Hi, everyone. Sorry to be in transit. My name is Megan Kiefer. I'm a New York City representative here. Started the organization, the Take Two Media Initiative, where we train young people like Gemma as early as we just did a cohort of 5th graders in media literacy, media well-being, and media citizenship. And they offer free programs to elementary schools and parents all across New York City. And we're hoping to make this a bigger national conversation to help guide parents and young people in navigating sort of all the pitfalls around like social media, technology addiction, and all that stuff, and just really empower young people to and parents to have agency over their tech and media versus their media and tech having agency over them. And Tiffany Wyckoff, I've invited her to come today. She's been working with us for a long time. She's a very lovely, wonderful colleague. She's done a lot of work in the AI space as well. And I invited her to come speak as well as Gemma. Gemma is one of our first media ambassadors. She is a high school student at West End Secondary. She has become a huge vocal proponent. She's wonderful. And we just, I feel like it's actually better to hear from her on this panel than from me.
Awesome. I think I want to actually kind of switch up things a little bit and start with the student perspective. We are super excited about this conversation. People are like, oh, I'm learning about AI, but I heard media literacy. I'm seeing the connection to math. I'm seeing STEM and STEAM related activities. And all of these things are a part of this amazing conversation. So I want to work in reverse order and say, Gemma, let's hear from you first around how young people are thinking about AI as it's transforming you all's lives, the lives of your parents, our greater community, and then we'll hear from Tiffany and others on the panel. So, Gemma, let's have you kick us off.
Okay, thank you, Jason. So like Megan said, my name is Gemma Graham. I'm a high school senior at West End Secondary School in Manhattan, New York City. I would say that AI has definitely rapidly transformed, and it like improves our efficiency. It advances research in multiple ways, but it's also raised a lot of serious concern for my generation, I feel like, because we're seniors, so we're starting to go to college, and we're a little scared for how our jobs and like how our careers are going to unfold with AI controlling it and taking over the workforce. There's so many concerns about job displacement, privacy violations, misinformation, and even existential crises that have been left unchecked. And me personally, I feel like, yeah, I just feel a little scared about what the future is going to unwrap. And yeah, I don't know.
No, that was, thank you so much for sharing this perspective. And it's so important. NPU is bringing together parents and families. And a part of that are the voices of young people, our community organizers, nonprofit leaders, practitioners. And so this conversation is so important. And again, I'm urging everyone to share this with your schools, your communities right now, so they can hear these perspectives and also get information. Tiffany, I would love to hear your thoughts in the work that you're doing in AI Generation Remix. I'm so excited about the work, and I would love for you to maybe address the progress that's happening with young people and how we can encourage more people to make the connections there.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm Tiffany Wyckoff. I'm a former teacher. I taught middle school and high school English for a long time before becoming a principal. I authored a book, Blended Learning in Action, all about the integration of technology in schools. And my current project, Generation Remix, focuses similarly to Megan's on empowering youth leadership towards digital literacy and well-being. And we co-created this media lab together to amplify the voices of young people. And truthfully, that is what makes me incredibly encouraged. I spent a lot of time in the AI space early in AI education because I was a co-founder of a teacher AI tool called Your Way. And one of the things that I find very encouraging is the way that teachers are using AI to really personalize their lesson plans and match the interest and relevance for their learners. And I think there's a lot of potential in the learning space. But I think some of the major progress markers that I'm seeing now in this work is hearing from young people what their lived experience has been in exploring AI, because yes, there is fear there, but there's also growing awareness. And there are a lot of challenges that I've seen young people take up on their own towards digital literacy, staying off their phones, lowering their screen time, and they're doing it of their own agency. And to me, that's a very good indicator of progress, not just in the way that we can design better. So our organization focuses a lot on helping youth take a design, role. And hopefully we will have more responsible tech, because the young people today are building that mindset of we have to be cautious in the way that we build AI technology, the way that it impacts the workforce, and the way that it impacts children. And I think that that is a huge progress marker that we can point to.
Okay, now this is a great transition, and I love this. For those who may not know, we have so many phenomenal partners, Castle and many others, that we are collaborating on in regards to health literacy, which is a part of this conversation, because digital wellness is health literacy and it connects to this very conversation. So I'm curious for some of our nonprofit leaders and organization leaders who are on, what are the impacts of AI that you're seeing on social learning and the development of our young people? And also, let me say this, the well-being of adults as well, because a lot of us are, if my phone wasn't connected to this studio setup equipment, I would hold it up so everyone could see that adults are connected to these devices too. So whoever would like to kind of jump in and address the impacts of AI on social learning before we get to the connection of math and STEM related careers and activities.
I can chime in on that. I think what we've noticed, at least in the social learning, the social emotional space around AI, and thinking about like social media, is basically AI's put like taken gasoline and poured it all over all of our algorithms, and made it much harder for young people and adults and everyone to put down their devices and put down and stop scrolling. They've looked and they've fully researched how our attention works. And I don't know if anyone here has read the book The Siren's Call by Chris Hayes, but he dives into these big tech and media companies. The way they're using AI now is just to further keep us all addicted. So it is very concerning, because what we're starting to notice is that people are having social atrophy. We don't know how to actually engage with each other anymore, because we're all engaging with each other in this very, what we're thinking of as a connected space, but it's actually making us all feel very isolated. So AI is a big concern for me. And I know everyone is like a rah around it, but I actually think that I think it's something we all need to have a very high level of skepticism around.
I'm so glad you shared that. Tiffany, let's go to you.
Sure. I share a lot of the same concerns that Megan mentioned. There are ways that kids are using AI from a relational intelligence perspective that are really interesting as well. And sometimes they're getting really good advice. So there are some surveys recently that show that one of the main ways that youth use AI is to ask for guidance on their relationships, whether they're families or friends or, romantic relationships. And that is both like positive in some cases, but also can be really concerning, because we haven't done a good job training AI to be really consistent in the response. And whether you are like in the role of, if AI is just learning you and is in the role of, friend, girlfriend, teacher, tutor, or therapist, it can actually give very similar answers to the same question. But whether that is good advice or not is very contextual. And AI doesn't understand that like context. And so context slips. And I think that has proven to be extremely dangerous sometimes, where, there are horror stories about how kids have developed relationships with AI bots. And that's very concerning to me. And I think that we need to explore all of the opportunities of AI in relational intelligence and learning, social emotional learning. However, we also need to make sure we have extremely good guardrails in check and conversations. I think one of the biggest things that parents can do to, just combat those harms is to have the conversations, with kids who are aware of these things that are out there and could speak to their understanding and ask good questions.
That's really, really good. I'm glad that you highlighted several points that people can connect to, and it leads us into the bulk of the conversation. What is AI? What is generative AI? What was it created to do? And how are our young people using it that is causing some of the impacts that we are seeing? And so let's go to Julian, and let's also see if Mackenzie Adventures can speak a little bit to what is AI literacy and what is generative AI?
Sure. Yeah. And even on the last few comments, or the last question rather, just to share maybe even some of the other perspectives, I've been engaged with youth the last few years, and since AI has really popped up into our conversation, really instructing and encouraging end users to use it in a similar manner as we would calculators necessarily, where we do still need to understand the underlying if you will calculations or kind of a thought process that goes into what we're asking. But in real time, we should be able to surface information quickly through some of the tools that we have. And so again, not necessarily leveraging it as this full persona, but just more so a tool. But also, Jason, to answer your question in regards to what is AI, what is generative AI, and then also what does it mean really for our children and our education ecosystem. First thing, is to really distinguish right now, we're having the generative AI boom. AI itself, we may all be familiar, has existed really for a number of years. Being within the gaming space, it's actually something that we get a chance to emphasize that, if you played any game that has a computerized kind of opponent, you've been engaged with AI or interfacing with AI since then. And so this is something that has actually existed for 30 or so years, or and specific to consumer facing technology. But the generative AI aspect is really where the boom, or the, if you will, innovation is taking place right now, really focused on these systems being able to cognitively reason or think before necessarily just performing a certain program task. And so that being said, it is definitely very important to understand how that works and how that really impacts our reality in real world, considering the data sets and the information that these tools and systems are trained on are really extrapolation from from the internet and from our lives themselves. And so, of course, if you look at just anything that humans have created, it's important to understand just the human error that's integrated really within any aspect that we could inspect. And so also understanding that may be an element we should also, if you will, look to mitigate or kind of put guardrails up around, to say if the data sets themselves are coming from humans, and humans themselves are imperfect, and these tools and systems are of course not perfect as well. And so while they are quite impressive, it is important to use with caution. But again, within the ecosystems that we're engaged in, students from middle school and up, really high school, for as it relates to AI, we're just encouraging to use them as a tool as you would in other regards. But of course, not necessarily depending on them exclusively.
That was very good. That was very good. Anyone want to add to this?
I was just sitting here just like nodding my head like a bobblehead because you hit the nail on the head. I just returned from a conference, and the term that was used by an educator was AI fatigue. At this point, AI is being pushed and thrown on all of us, and it's important to understand that there are biases that exist. And I try my best to help teachers and students understand that it's generating all this information from the web, right? And if most of this information on the web has biases, just think about the content that it's generating for you. So it's important for us to still have students understand the importance of critical thinking and being able to dissect false content from what's true, right? Or fact from fiction. And with AI literacy, it's literally having us understand or have a basic understanding of what AI is, how it works, and the fact that it was created to almost like be an assistant. It shouldn't be the, say or end all. It should be literally where teachers are putting in information that's not private, and it's generating a response in which we can use kind of like as a resource or as a basis. I tend to explain it as teachers are looking at standards, right? Your standards for a lesson plan should not be what the entire lesson plan is focused on. It should just be the basis for what we're going to create and what you want students to be able to do after. And that's exactly what AI is. It's designed for you to input information and receive a response from it. And then from there, work on creating resources.
Ooh, that was really, really good. Now I know Gemma wants to get in the mix too and share the young people's perspective. Let me say the student perspective, because we're all young. All of us. Where is Megan at? I don't see Megan on here. We're all young. I think, okay, good. I said I need someone to be my amen corner in agreement with me here. We're all young. So Gemma, you're gonna give us the student, not the young people, but the student's perspective.
Yeah, for sure. So I was at a conference not too long ago, and they had us depict like a picture, and they asked me, oh, like, do you know if this is AI or not? And I was like, well, based off of the picture, which was like they put into AI, give me a picture of a little girl in like a canoe, like in the rain with like a dog or something. And I was like, well, that's so obvious that it's AI. And I feel like a lot, like the younger generation or like Gen Z can easily depict a picture or any type of media or information that is AI generated, and not realistic. And I think we also, it's always feeded to us as well, from either on Instagram or TikTok, when there's videos that pop up of like animated dogs or cats. Like, it's just so easily recognizable. And it really just, it messes with your mind a lot. And it also just gives you like no sense of what is real or not. And I also remember when I was doing a presentation for Take Two at an elementary school, I remembered this story of a woman who was on the phone with who she thought was her son, but actually AI generated her grandson or her son's voice and was asking her for money. And so what we tend to say in our presentations is try to change like your passwords for different like banks that you are authorized with, because AI can literally take anything you say and get whatever they want to get out of you and generate people that voices. And so we try to explain to these parents, try and come up with some key safe passwords that you and your family know, change regularly so that you don't get scammed by these anonymous people.
Listen, so many major shout out to the grand families and kinship. They always, anytime they see NPU is doing something, they are going to be plugged in. Anyone who knows me knows that I love grand families and kinship families. So major shout out to the grandparents. I just had to say that. And also, thank you, Gemma, for acknowledging that area of how people are scammed, and especially our seniors. And also seniors and parents, listen to the students, the young people. Listen to them, because they can really help with that example, which again has really moved a lot of people. I want to go to a question that we had earlier. Speaking of scams that we see online and finances, economics, ensuring economic stability is one of our parent power agenda areas. And we've had all kinds of questions around math and financial literacy. So Akil, I've been trying to get you in for a minute. But now the people are saying the same question over and over again. And I said, let us go ahead and make sure that we get you the answer, but also give some input into some of the things that we've mentioned. So I'm turning it over to you.
So yeah, I keep hearing this word that keeps being used, which is tool, and I think that's like one of the most important concepts that we have to understand as AI users, teachers, educators that are trying to facilitate our students using artificial intelligence. I can remember like probably the first time I ever used Chat GPT when somebody had told me about it. It was like, bro, you got to try this out, and I had it just drafted email for me. Right, this was like maybe a few years ago. And when I saw the email, my first response was, I said, wow, this looks like something I actually would have written. Right. So what I realize now is that there are a lot of people that are using the AI tools that may have emails drafted or even, essays written or responses written that they actually wouldn't have written, which I think is a dangerous thing for many reasons, because then, it kind of disincentivizes the opportunity to actually learn how to develop yourself as that type of writer or even as that type of thinker that could create that type of written content. In terms of mathematics, I think it was Julian earlier that mentioned, the calculator, because, with AI, it's like you got to be concerned with, operator error. Garbage in, if it's garbage in, it's going to be garbage out. And also knowing like when to use the calculator versus when to just use mental math. Right. And now we're in a, kind of a time where I think what has been exacerbated is this idea of like mathematics being irrelevant, mathematics being too difficult. So people are constantly trying to cut corners and find ways to replace, our own, critical thinking and our own human thought as applied to mathematics. So now, if we say, well, this artificial intelligence program, which might be like, one of these like photo math apps on steroids, right, can actually do all of this for me. It's just things are just going to get worse and worse. I was at a conference recently. I was at the South by Southwest EDU conference a few weeks ago, and I was at a panel on AI. And one of the statistics that was given was that AI is actually going to create we're going to lose 85 million jobs because of AI. But on the flip side, 97 million jobs are expected to be created. However, the challenge with that is a lot of these new jobs that are going to be created will require a strong foundation in mathematical ability. So if you're a person that like is in school now that's using AI to essentially do all your mathematical work for you, then you won't know how to do the math yourself as a human. And then you won't be able to qualify for a lot of those new opportunities that AI will bring about. So these are just some of the things that I'm concerned with, because I just, it's like anything, nothing is all good, nothing is all bad, but it has to be, it has to be managed, right?
That's right.
And as I said in the beginning, it has to be a tool. It has to be something to supplement us as humans, as opposed to something that is going to replace us. And if we're not careful, it will just replace human beings.
That's good. That's a good point. And I want to go here to connect Jim into the conversation, but also to remind us that we are here to take action, right? That's what NPU does. We create and implement positive policies. Now, Gemma, I want you to follow me here because I want to make a connection to what Akil has said and also a connection to policy. A lot of students need assisted technology. We see what's happening with the Department of Education. We also know that a lot of our states and local school districts rely on federal dollars that provide resources such as maybe graphing calculators, maybe other things, supplements that students need for math, for science, for other areas. What are some of your thoughts around the impacts of students being able to have these resources from federal programs, and what are some of the things that you all are actually using in classrooms that most likely are going to be impacted by this? And we don't have a clue, because guess what? Most of us are probably like Tiffany and I out of the classroom now. And so we're on this end, but we aren't really connected to maybe the everyday devices that students are benefiting from in classrooms the way that you are. So what is your perspective?
Well, I wanted to add on to Akil and just say that first, the majority of students, like, I hate to be a snitch, and I am guilty of it myself sometimes, have used different apps on like your phone that can take a picture of whatever you're doing for any math assignment or assignment period. I know there's a lot of like math focused applications that take a picture or scan a worksheet with any math problems and then they figure it out themselves. And so like that's a way of like using AI to like help you. But to go back to your question, well, actually, sorry, in my English class, my teacher has now downloaded a chat GBT. I think it's like it analyzes all the work and it tracks if you've used chat GBT or not. And all the teachers have been doing this a little bit more frequently. And a lot of people have gotten caught, and it's really embarrassing for them, I feel like. And to go back to your question, Jason, we do have graphing calculators, and we do use, I feel like, the more familiar, like working objects, like graphing calculators, whiteboards, that type of like school focused necessities. But there's nothing that really stands out to me that I feel like AI could replace, except for these types of apps where you can just put anything into ChatGPT and it does your work for you. And yeah, it just doesn't give your brain a single second for any creativity and letting your brain be bored to then think for yourself and write down whatever it is that you have to say, like from your own heart and head, I feel like.
Now, not too often are there various generations that can agree on something. And I feel like right now we have come to an agreement that we have to have balance with AI literacy, how it's infused in our everyday lives, in schools, on playgrounds, and community centers, in our homes. Now, parents, teachers, I also know I can't pick up this iPad because it's also a part of the studio production pieces happening. But I do want to highlight that when we get in these meetings and we have something that's going on, and the first thing we do is say, here's the tablet. Now, we told on the students. We did tell on the students, and let me say that they're highlighting again, parents. Here are the apps that you need to be aware of, teachers, educators, and parents, but also parents. And Tiffany, I'm going to go to you. We know that there is a habit of, I'm in a meeting, I need you to be quiet for a few moments, and we will pass over that tablet. Tiffany, let me get you into the conversation.
Yeah, I think the question was like, what are some of the apps being used also, and what should parents be aware of?
We did add that in, but yes, if you have some others, please share, because parents are definitely lighting that question up.
Yeah, so I think that one of the things that's happened that so a lot of schools use, every school almost uses a productivity app like a Google Suite or Microsoft, and both of those now have embedded AI capacities. And so I think that if students are using Google Docs, a lot of times, they might have that where you're actually inside it. So it's getting more integrated, but there are learning apps that schools are using right now. Ello is a reading companion that there's been a lot of praise about how it's helped, kids learn. Their Conmingo is like a direct student tutor experience. There's School AI. There's a lot of these newer apps, that have been designed specifically for student use. And then there are others that are now having an integration of things like Gemini into like the workflow of a Google Doc. And I don't know, how many schools are turning that feature like on or off, or if teachers are learning to, or exploring with modeling. So one of the things that that I did a lot at the beginning of this, flooding of the field with AI was help train teachers and help teachers understand like what it is and how they can model it. And I think one of the best use cases that I'm seeing in the classroom is teachers are actually like opening it up and saying, okay, let's do this together and let's use AI. And then let's like actually look at it and say, is this something that I think you would have written? I love that approach much more than the caught you approach, because those AI, detectors, they're not accurate. And then you destroy the relationship between the student and the teacher in the meantime. But if you're modeling really good practices as a teacher, and then you're doing that like I do now we do together, and then you do, it's an awesome opportunity to build critical thinking skills. Like I would have said, hey, let's ask this of ChatGPT, and then let's see how biased it is, how accurate it is or inaccurate. And what a great opportunity to build those literacies and critical thinking skills. And teachers are definitely doing that right now.
I love that we highlighted the good, bad, and the ugly, because it's working in some areas. There are caution areas that we need to be aware of. And then there's the reality that how do we, I like to say, connect old school and new school to have a happy medium. Akil, I know you wanted to add a couple of things. And then I have one final question that was not in the document, but something that I want to ask the panelists about. So Akil, let's hear from you.
Yeah, I think this conversation also addresses like how we orient ourselves to problems generally. Like, how do we define problems? How do we like consider what problems are? And, because I think sometimes there are certain problems that you just want to eliminate immediately, right? So of course, AI can immediately eliminate a problem, or it can find a solution for you or find an answer for you. But other times, like, there are problems that need to be struggled through. Like as educators, we often talk about productive struggle, right? And what AI can do is, eliminate the possibility even for productive struggle, because it's going to find the answer for you, right? And then, of course, we understand what the consequences can be of that, the negative consequences of that, which is, that there's no opportunity to really develop the creativity. There's no opportunity to really develop the critical thinking and the analytical reasoning ability from having to have went through that struggle. It's also kind of like, also we have to know when to say when, like, when do we use the tool? When do we not use the tool? Like, as an example, like, on paper, I know how to multiply, like, and sure all of us do, like 3,492 times 6,785, right? We could do that on paper, but is it efficient? No, right? We go to the calculator, just like use the calculator to do it. But it's an option, right? It's an option because we already know how to do it. And as I kind of like, addressed earlier, like for a lot of students and even adults, when it's not an option, when the technology is the only way you could do something, and by definition, it's not an option, right? It becomes something that you're overly relying on. And I think back to, I'm aging myself a little bit, but Melly Mel in 1984 on the Beat Street Breakdown, when he said, never let a computer control your life. Right? He said that back in 1984, right? And back then, this is way before anybody even had an iPhone, right? But it's just an important concept, and there's definitely a fine line, right, that has to be told in terms of, who is because is it a tool, or is the AI the tool, or do we become the tool, right?
That's good.
Is AI just, in control? Like who's in control here is what we have to consider. And I think we have to have some systems in place to make sure that the human being is always in control, right? And that the AI is an option, right? It's not the only outlet or only alternative.
I love that you highlighted that. And this is such a East Coast conversation, because we have the New York dialects and then we have the dirty South with Georgia represented. And it's so apparent in our conversation and our dialects today. Okay, I want to round us out because it's almost 2:00. I know we're coming to the end of our conversation. I have to highlight this amazing book, and I'm actually reading it. That's why it's so close to me. Tafshir provided this for our team, and it's really addressing how the internet is creating the new underclass. And I know that we have different perspectives around digital literacy, but also access. The previous administration put a lot of dollars into infrastructure. A lot of people do not know that infrastructure connects to technology. It also connects to schools, hospitals, recreation centers. So I want to hear from the panel on the gulf between those who have access to advanced technology, and the hundreds of thousands of American families who do not. How are we addressing what is being referred to as the new underclass, which, if you do not know, we have a very strong working class, which resembles what people would probably refer to as the middle class. We have a growing number of persons in the working poor class, which are those who are the working poor, those in your school district that may be bus drivers or parent coordinators, those who are in the front office that are greeting you and doing 3,000 jobs. Major shout out to school secretaries and admins who, if your child is sick and the nurse isn't there, they're caring for your child, they're calling you, they're finding the bus, they're doing the field trip. All right, so let's deal with classism and the digital divide, and whoever wants to start first, maybe Julian. Let's go.
Yeah, I've been ready. I actually been kind of teasing the mute button. So I did want to kind of bounce off of what Akil said, and then also what Tiffany mentioned a little bit earlier. But you also, this goes into your question regarding the digital divide. One thing that also just took place last week, excuse me, I was in San Francisco for a game developers conference, and simultaneously NVIDIA, if everyone's familiar, was having their annual conference called GTX. And so NVIDIA, for anyone who may not be familiar, is a company that, from my perspective, historically used to make GPUs for gaming devices, for laptops, etc. Now, currently, they're, if you will, being garnered as the most influential and important company right now in America, considering from Apple to Microsoft to Google, all of those companies are utilizing NVIDIA technology to power their AI, if you will, innovations, right? So it's, think about the technology required, the Intel of the old world, now that's NVIDIA, right? And so they're a $1 trillion company. The Saudi governments are talking about working with them directly, giving them $2 trillion to invest in their infrastructure. So it's very important. They just had a conference, and Jensen Huang, the CEO himself, mentioned they are currently using AI to program their computers and their AI. So it's already to a point where their existing engineers recognize, to the call out that was mentioned earlier, Akil, it is about efficiency, right? Not replacing our capability, but about leveraging efficiency. But it is important as well to recognize there's a substantial gap that exists as it relates to just understanding, at the ground level, we should be focused on increasing our awareness on prompt engineering, right? Because at the highest of levels, that's something that is still very relevant as it relates to even, again, programming the computers that are creating the AI. The engineers right now are actually factoring in the technical requirements needed to tell AI to do the job that they ultimately need to do more efficiently, right? So just speaking to the fact that, and forgive any background noise, there's a huge aspect of, we do need to understand how these technologies are created, how they work, how they operate at the ground level. If we're not necessarily building them, we need to understand how to interact and interface with them. And that starts at, the prompt engineering level. And of course, as you get more sophisticated, that allows each of us in our own roles to augment our work with these tools, right? And of course, going back to the call outs, it's about efficiency, more so than replacing our capability or proficiency, right? And so really looking at the gaps that exist, and really also understanding the opportunity for us each is to understand these tools as really as much as possible, but then also recognize within each of our worlds, each of our roles, augmenting or even supplementing our work with these tools may be the immediate way that we look to stay relevant. But just to the call out, the last point I was making, the call out in regards to the new jobs that exist, at the very least, the new jobs that will be created with individuals that are using these technologies, right? And or creating them. So just kind of sharing some real-time insights around what's happening in the industry. That for me is also where I can potentially pose a question, because for me, workforce development is the name of the game for my day-to-day focus, and seeing that the industry is sharing, hey, we're already using AI to build our own tools. It is important to then ask the question or pose the question, where do we really see the necessary, or I would say the return on investment, and that kind of in between of, we do need to learn as much as possible in regards to foundational understanding, but at the same time, there is a world that exists where leveraging the technology is almost just as important to further add value and build and produce. And so again, I pose that as a question of where do we find that middle ground? How do we actually, do this correctly or, implement technology appropriately? For me, you have, when I'm using my phone or a computer and it suggests the word to spell it out for me, I try not to ever just have it spell it for me, even though it might be telling me, all right, cool, you might be spelling this wrong. Go back and type it all the way out, right? That's a very solution that we might expect everyone to do. But what can we do to scale that, if you will? So I wanted to provide both that context and then also pose the question based on that context.
I have the perfect question that I think is a good an example of this, and I'm going to go to Jimba to answer this as well. I cannot tell you. Sometimes I forget my own phone number. I could not, in the case of an emergency, we had. Now I won't say our family emergency, but we had a family emergency the other day involving ICE, and we were trying to remember who do we need cousins, we need this person, and we could not remember people's phone number, and we kept trying to get the message. Well, what is the phone number? Do you remember? And I'm sharing that to say we rely on these devices so much for everyday needs, spelling words, our phone number, sometimes our birthdays, all of these things. So Jimba, we have a few moments, but I would love, because you're connected to all generations, but especially the younger generations. What are you all struggles? Do you guys really rely on these things, or can you tell me 5 people's birthdays off the top of your head without having to look in your phone? But I would love to hear your feedback on Julian's last thoughts and how your generation is relying on and utilizing these technologies to help with everyday things.
I would say that, I mean, when I'm close friends with somebody, I just automatically remember their birthday, but I don't think I remember their phone numbers. Like, I feel like I only remember my mom and like my dad's phone numbers because I'm just so used to like saying them out loud all the time. But I feel like when it comes to like either like your credit card information or like just anything that you use on a day-to-day basis, that is when your phone like becomes so reliable. Like if you're online shopping and you want to use Apple Pay, or if you're, I don't know, taking the train and you don't have your Metro card or Omni card on you, like you just double click and you use your phone to scan and get you into the transfers. But I don't know, yeah, it's just become so easy to like access and reliable to
Good
use all of
examples.
the time.
Good. No, those are really, really good examples. And listen, everybody, I know that we had a couple of more questions, comments, responses from the panel, but we are at time. This event is a part of a line of events throughout the evening and throughout the day. And so I want to have everyone join me in thanking our panel for their phenomenal input, their work, all of the things that they're doing. This will not be the last time that you hear from or see from any of these phenomenal persons and organizations. We are excited to be working more closely with Generation Remix. I have to say that Take Two Media is going to be collaborating with us, Gemma and some of her peers, with the AI literacy workshop that I mentioned happening in New York City, and that's going to be phenomenal. We are working to engage 500 plus families in New York City, so make sure that you all join the National Parents Union to get connected. You already have seen some of our phenomenal partners in Georgia and New York, so we are really serious about this. Again, please join me in thanking all of our panelists and special guests for today. Our team has also shared in the comments a feedback form for everyone to connect to and complete. We want to make sure that we're letting people know that parents, the community, teachers, young people have come together and have said, this is what is important. My candle has gone out to say that it's time for us to be off. AI Literacy Day at 4 o'clock. There is a very important event we want you to register for if you are concerned about special education and AI. Okay, let me say that again. Special education and AI. One of our partners is doing a phenomenal event. Please make sure that you go and get connected to that event. And NPU family, those who have joined us on today, again, we thank you for being a part of this conversation. Of course, make sure you join us as a partner, affiliate, individual member at nationalparentsunion.org. We will see you soon. Because guess what? In April, we are celebrating. I'm a Captain Planet kid, guys. And so we are celebrating with our partner, earthday.org, and so many others. Earth Day, April 22nd. And so, Gemma, I am going to go ahead and call you out right now. We want to make sure young people are connected to this conversation. All of our partners, we want to make sure that we have a list of things that we want people to be engaged in on Earth Day and doing. And on that evening, Tuesday, April 22nd, which is Earth Day again at 6 p.m., the Let's Get Real series will return. And we are talking about how we are confronting climate change in real time. We're looking at lead water in schools. We're looking at plastic-free cafeterias. We're looking at the forest fires that we're seeing on the West Coast, the flooding that we're seeing on the East. So we're getting some real conversations happening on Earth Day. And guess what? We need you connected. nationalparentsunion.org. Again, everyone, they are kicking us off. But thank you so much for being a part of this conversation. And we hope to see you again. nationalparentsunion.org. Thank you so much, and happy National AI Literacy Day. Thank you, everybody.